Hey ladies, so happy to finally be able to answer your questions. The first question that I got was, what advice would I give a young lady starting university or at the start of her career? I think and this is something that I've been working with and struggling with and thinking about a lot, because it is so dependent on what's authentic to you. I think it is important that when you make choices in life, that those choices are made, using your brain, but following your heart. So choose something that you find yourself passionate about, that you find yourself curious about, that you see has a lot of impact on either your community or your immediate surroundings, or an industry that you've always been curious about, or always had questions about. Choose something that you feel you want to know more about, because it'll make you so much richer when it's time to use that in your career, when it's time to actually promote what kind of skills you have, or build those skills even, if you actually find that they match your authentic self. I think following yourself also means developing with that self, because yourself is not a static entity. It is something that develops with every experience, with every year, with every interaction that we have in life, which means that when you do develop and progress, and you do have to have something that you're focusing on that can progress and develop with you, or that you can even help enhance that, and really kind of fit your inner self and your inner journey. I think if you can focus on what really makes you tick, either an issue that you've seen that you think, oh, this is something that we really need to solve, or you've seen you have an industry that you've always thought about, or you have a topic or a subject matter that you feel is really, really something that triggers your passion, triggers your emotions. That's what I would follow, and that's what I would do. Definitely, that's the biggest advice I would give. So yeah, use your brain, but follow your heart. Yeah, so this is the question I always struggle with, but I actually realized it's not that I'm struggling with it, is that I haven't answered it yet. And the question is, how did I choose my career and my studies? I didn't really choose them. They chose me. Or actually, that's probably the wrong thing to say. I was one of the first generations that was, where programming was available at school, in 92, and I was extremely curious, so I enrolled. That was an option for my international baccalaureate. Ended up actually taking it and having a knack for it, loved it, so really kind of dove into programming, though it was a minor in my international baccalaureate in economics and biology, so that was a nice cocktail right there. But definitely, and whatever choices I've made because I was curious about something, because I was trying to solve something. There were questions I needed answered, and I couldn't find good enough answers for them. So I ended up, minoring in theology and psychology while I was doing a liberal arts degree, and then political science. Ended up, coming back to Sweden, doing a cultural science degree in social anthropology. Minored in classical Arabic and in literature. It's been very much driven by my curiosity, what I like, what I want to answer, what I want to know more about. And I am a very curious person by nature. And of course, work has, it has its challenges. So it's not like I chose my career. It's a little bit more that my career chose me. the first job that I was offered, or the first real job that I was offered, because I was actually working. I've been working since I was 17, I think, on the side to pay for my studies. That was with Monster. That was a sales position, and with the closeness to HR, of course, and the fact that I really, really love getting to know people. I love, just figuring out how do we solve. I mean, there's an adrenaline kick that comes out of solving issues and challenges, and that's something that I really, really figured out I love doing. So that kind of drove me right into business development, and I grew within my career, of course, and with the direct contact with HR. HR is everything. It's people management. It's if you know what HR needs, you know what people need, and you can find solutions to that. And I think that my foray since 2013 into the startup community, and the tech startup community specifically, has been very much driven by the knowledge and the insights that I got from working so closely with HR and working so closely with marketing and all of these fields that are not directly commercial or sales oriented, where I was, but that sales was quite dependent on, especially in the field that I was in. But I don't consider myself done. I think that's why I couldn't answer this question. I actually see myself as still try to figure out what I want to do and what I want to learn, and what else am I going to learn, and where else am I going to do, and what else new is out there that I can learn more about. So yeah, it keeps me very, very grounded and interested in new ideas, interested in new technologies. I think that's also why the fit is so good with working within the tech startup community. Yeah, that's the answer I have for that one. What is my favorite part of my job and being a leader? That's a great question. The favorite part I have about my job is probably the opportunity that I have to invite people into a brand new world. I work with technologies that are really, really new, and that many people have never really even thought they would be close to. I've worked with projects that involved social robotics and virtual reality, and companies that are driving brand new technologies into old industries, and this being extremely disruptive. And I think what I really enjoy is just guiding people through that brand new adventure that I think a new technology with a social impact takes you on. When you see that, oh my gosh, there's a solution to an issue or a challenge that I've been having forever. And when you really kind of almost can touch that solution, and in many ways you can touch it, and you can see the difference it makes in everyday life. That's something that drives me, every day. So really, yeah, launching new technology onto traditional industries, definitely something that I love. And yeah, demos and introducing people to new technology, especially with the impact that it has on the social fabric and the communities around me. As far as being the best parts of being a leader, I've always seen myself as somebody that loves to help, loves to provide a platform for others not to have to go through the same struggles. I think everybody's going to have to go through struggles. There's no reason to repeat the same struggles. Let's kind of create platforms for each other. And I think that's something that drives me a lot, is to be able to provide others, and other women, other young women, youth, anyone really, with any kind of platform that my experience can give them, just to allow for them to kind of use it as a springboard to develop themselves, to better careers, entrepreneurship. I've provided mentorship in terms of networking. I've provided mentorship in terms of careers and career development, personal development, you name it. If I can do it, I'll do it. And I think that's a freedom that that experience gives, and also because that's something I love to do. So definitely that would be the biggest strength and advantage of having had the career I've had, and I'm still having. I love this question. How did I learn to embrace failure and how to deal with challenges and setbacks? So early on in my career, I actually realized that I was learning so much more from having really bad managers and bad bosses than I was learning with great bosses and great managers. And I actually remember the bad ones, and more than I remember, the pretty good ones. And I think the biggest thing for me was that I was learning so much about what not to do. I was learning so much about how to handle situations that I knew to be tricky to begin with. And I think that opened up this whole perspective of every failure is such an amazing lesson for the future, because you're learning what not to do, which is such a great step towards success. And I do believe in the motto of if you're not failing, you're not doing anything. You're honestly just not moving. So not only do I embrace failure, I invite failure. The more I fail, the closer I feel to succeeding. And I think that has transpired in every area of my life. And that's something that I think has provided me also with the strength of being ready for failure, being ready for challenges, and always being quite grateful for when it works out really easily or nicely, which is not that often, but when it does, I do feel that I'm not learning as much when it's easy, or when it's when my skill set was enough. It sounds so odd to say that, but if I'm enough for a specific task, then I have probably not been given the chance to grow in that task. And I think that's the feeling, the kind of feeling of not discontent, but kind of neutral. The feeling of success that I get out of situations and projects and so on, where I was able to fail and start over and really try hard and learn something new and figure something else out, or I've realized that, oh my God, I'm missing this skill set, and get on online and to take a codeHER class, or take any kind of online webinar or something that will provide me with more information about a specific topic that allows me to all of a sudden succeed in that project. The joy when that works out is so much bigger. It's the success is just such an adrenaline kick, and you kind of take it with you into the next one and the next one, and because you keep getting developing yourself, and you keep adding skill sets, and you keep adding these experiences, and it's something that really I can live on for a long time. I may actually be a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, but that's one area that I get a lot of adrenaline from. It's really challenges, and so yeah, I think I don't just embrace them, I invite them, definitely. So I actually find myself struggling with this question. How do I make my voice heard in a male dominated field? And of course, all of the fields that I'm in are male dominated. Whether we look at it from a business development point of view, leadership point of view, or a tech point of view, or even a startup point of view, the female to male ratio is unfortunately still very skewed to the male gender. What I'm really struggling with is the fact that I've never thought of myself as being a female communicating. I've always thought of myself as being a professional communicating. So all of my communications are based on my experience, are based on, what I know, and my skill set. It has never been based on my gender. I've used the fact that I'm a female, of course, because, I do bring some insight into 50% of the global population. But I think mainly it's focusing on the fact that I'm a professional talking to other professionals. And I believe that has earned me the respect from many, and doesn't mean that I ever forget that I am a woman, of course not. But what it does is that we're on, I put myself on equal footing with anyone I talk to, and I don't see myself as having less of a right to be at the table than anyone else. If I'm there, it's because my background and my experience and my skill set is needed. That's very much how I would like to answer this question, because I don't really cannot figure out even one time when I've tried to get my point across or a communication across where I thought, oh, well, I have to do it as a female. It doesn't even cross my mind, to tell you the truth. I really just base it on my professional opinion, and that has taken me as far as I am today. The biggest lesson I've learned, I believe, is never to forget to take care of myself. It sounds so odd, but that is the biggest lesson. Being as career-oriented as I was, I tended to spend such long days at work, and I was giving it everything. And I had heard, you have to give 150%, 200%, because this is your career and you have to succeed. And what I didn't realize is that while I was doing that for several years, my body was just taking a beating. The positive relationships in my life that I was taking for granted were really being destroyed. I was literally cutting the oxygen off at the source by not feeding it anymore. It's like a forgotten plant. It was just dying. And of course, not only was I, forgetting to catch up on relationships that were so positive to me and were filling me with energy, but I was also not taking care of myself physically, and started on a negative spiral, that I thought, well, this is my career, I have to focus. But the fact is that when I stopped and realized that, hey, you know what, you only have one body, you have one life, and it doesn't matter how much you work. If you work yourself to the ground, this is going to be useless and meaningless. And that had to be the conversation I had with myself. The interesting part about that is that once I started prioritizing my health and my fitness and what I ate and who I met, and kind of putting all of these, positive relationships in my life in the forefront, I started becoming so much more productive at work. I really kind of had a renaissance of the love of the fields that I've chosen. I realized every day I was going into the office and loving it. I couldn't wait until my next demo and my next meeting and my next investment meeting and whatever else network or business or it just sparked or reminded me of why I wanted to do what I was doing, because I had the energy to do so, and because I was respectful of my health and my body and my well-being, and taking care of it and prioritizing it. So that's definitely the biggest lesson for me. When it comes to the most valuable skill I've learned, I have to say that it is always be learning. The world is moving at such a hyper speed when it comes to research and new developments and new technologies and I think that I am naturally very curious, which has made kind of this skill a good fit for me. But I do believe that without it, you become quickly obsolete, especially in my field, because I work with startups and new technologies, and it is so important to stay up to date and knowing what's going on, and even if you don't know everything, to at least know a little bit about most things. And when you hear about something that you don't know anything about, jump onto a webinar about it, or listen to a podcast about it. But I just think that knowing more and being informed, diversifying your sources in terms of knowledge, in terms of research, in terms of feedback or thought leadership. I think that's just key today. It's such an amazing skill to have, and that's actually a skill that I look for when I look for colleagues or new colleagues, or when it comes to replacing colleagues, or even when it comes to giving references to somebody. I want to see that the person that I'm giving a reference to is always going to be evolving, always going to be developing, because we're in a world that is always evolving and developing. We need to kind of embrace that. So definitely that would be the skill. So the best advice I've ever gotten. That's very interesting, because I actually, the one thing that pops up into my brain at this point is I had such an intense reaction to one of these, inspirational sentences that are flooding our social media. And it was, be yourself, everybody else is taken. And I think one of the reasons why it resonated so much with me is being the multicultural kid and multilingual kid that I am, and that I was, and growing up with several native cultures and native environments, speaking the language and knowing the social cues and the cultural backgrounds, and it seemed I had many selves, when in fact I had many interpretations, or many ways of showing that unique self in these different cultures. And I think understanding the difference between those two, where in one case I thought, well, why are you changing so much from one country to another, from one group of people to another, and why can't you be authentic? Not realizing that I was being extremely authentic, and but changing my communication style, my body language, my of course the language itself, the way I dressed, the way I moved, everything was changing, because it wasn't the communication that was changing. It was actually how I was communicating, because the environment was different. The way I was communicating had to be different. And it turned out, and I actually realized that, oh my God, that is actually one of my strengths and skills. And a huge part of who I am. So it took a journey to realize that, and I don't know why that specific sentence made it so clear to me, but it did, and I'm thankful, and therefore that stays with me as one piece of advice that was really, 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 really meaningful to me. So last question was, how do I find work-life balance? I don't find it. The fact is that I do schedule it. And I do it very consciously. It is so dangerous not to keep that balance going. And I think for me, I've learned the hard way, and I did spiral out of control about I think it was more than that, 8 years ago, where I had to kind of grab a hold of myself and prioritize my personal life and my health and my fitness and so on. But yeah, it is very much scheduling it in and prioritizing it, and never saying, oh well, I can do that another day, just doing it. I have, school pickups with my nephews penciled into my work schedule. Same thing with my NGO activities. I've been president of the Rotary Club. I have 2 NGOs that I work with in Morocco, with youth and career development. And I wouldn't be able to do it all if I didn't, schedule it. I think in the end, that's what it comes down to. It's priorities and knowing what feeds my soul, what feeds my intellect, what keeps my health, up and running. I'm an asthmatic, so not being able to train actually has some really severe consequences for me. So it's very much knowing myself and making time for celebrations. Just tonight, I made sure I had to pick up my nephews, but I ended up taking them with me because I was going to celebrate a friend of mine moving to England, for example. And I think those small celebrations and making time for those small things in life, but really joyful things and things that we crave in the end. That's really important. I have to say, I've been lucky enough not to miss too many birthdays, amongst my nieces and nephews, and I'm on call for homework help, from the 15-year-old to pick up help with the 3-year-old, and everything in between. I have 5 of them, so I'm very blessed. And yeah, friends, so important to just grab a coffee, a walk. I mean, walk and talks are amazing for me because I get to be outdoors and have oxygen, and at the same time I'm walking next to a friend and we're talking and we're catching up and doing so many things together. I also train with a lot of my friends, which means that while we're exercising and training, we're also getting to catch up together and knowing what's going on with the other person's life and how they're doing and how they're feeling. And I think that's something that we as human beings crave and need, and we cannot put that on the back burner for too long, because we really wither and die from the inside. And that has some really, really destructive effects on both our life and our work life, I think. So it is crucial to find that balance and find what your priorities are.